Hey piano people, if you're new here, I'm Ashley. It's great to have you. Today, I'm going to be giving you 4 tips for better piano practice sessions. The first tip is to keep in mind quality and quantity. So many people get caught up with the quantity of practice. One of the most common questions that I get asked is how long should I be practicing? Or how many minutes should I spend on scales? Or how many minutes should I spend on this piece or this piece? The question of quantity can really only be answered when we first pay attention to quality. If you're spending 2 hours every single day practicing scales, but you're not super focused and you're making a lot of mistakes and the quality of your practice isn't there, those 2 hours are going to be completely wasted and potentially detrimental to your development. One of the things to keep in mind when it comes to quality and quantity is we can't usually maintain quality for super long stretches of time. Even for professionals, if I'm going to sit down and I'm going to practice for many hours at a time, I can't go more than like an hour to an hour and a half without taking a 5 or 10 minute break. It just doesn't work. My brain gets way too tired and I can't apply the appropriate amount of focus that it takes to really do that quality practice. Now, maybe you're at this for fun and you're not practicing for really long chunks of time. The same thing applies. We can't really focus on new information for longer than about 10 to 15 minutes without experiencing some sort of fatigue. So when you're practicing, even if you're practicing for an hour or 30 minutes or 20 minutes, I want you to think about how you're breaking up that practice time so that you can maintain a certain level of quality. And I'm going to give you an exact level of quality that I want you to maintain later in the video. The second tip that I have for you for better piano practice sessions is to know the rhythm. Rhythm provides structure in our pieces. It's so essential to deeply understanding the music and to be able to produce the beautiful sound that we want. And rhythm is something that you can't really cheat on. You might be in your piano practice journey and you might be thinking, yeah, right, I don't need to know the rhythm. I've gotten this far. I can play just fine. But I promise you, if you're not counting out loud and if you're not paying attention to the rhythm of your pieces, there will come a point where you hit a wall and you have to go back and relearn how to count out loud and how to play with proper rhythm. Rhythm is often the source of troubles that are disguised as something else. So I'll often have people that come to work with me and they think they're having technical issues or they think that they're having hand coordination issues. That's a really big one. But really, they all stem back to an issue with rhythm. When we count out loud and when we know the rhythm, we can give really clear signals to our hands about exactly when and where they're supposed to be because we're choreographing them with the rhythmic structure. The third tip for better piano practice sessions is to break it down. There's a very simple way to think about this when it comes to piano practice. If you are making mistakes, you are doing too many things at the same time. So if we're trying to practice something, maybe we're taking a measure over and over and we're drilling it because we know that this measure is challenging for us. And we work on that measure all by itself and all of the mistakes are still happening. You need to break it down even further. So that could be playing one hand at a time. That could be playing half the measure or one beat of the measure or potentially even one note of the measure. Don't be afraid to go slower, to make the section smaller or to do things hands alone. Those are ways that we can break things down to a level where we can have success. And once we have success with something, we can then add those different layers back in while maintaining that success. Oftentimes, people will start out with the best of intentions and they'll break something down to maybe like a line or 2 or 3 or 4 measures, but I do see people making the mistake of just not breaking it down farther and farther and farther to the point that they can really be consistently successful with it. My fourth tip for better piano practice sessions that you can use to guide you for the 3 previous tips that we've gone over is to think about the 95% rule. And the 95% rule is basically that in order to be as effective and efficient as possible with our piano practice, we want to be playing with 95% accuracy, 95% of the time. And I love this rule because it makes it really clear when you are ready to move on from drilling a section and when you are not. So in the process of breaking things down, let's say you break it down to 2 notes of a measure. Are you able to play those 2 notes exactly as you want them to sound with 95% accuracy 95% of the time? So let's say you play them 10 times and 9 times out of 10, you were able to play it exactly how you want. Awesome. You're ready to go on and add maybe another note or 2. If you play it 10 times and you only played it accurately 4 times, you're not ready. That's only 40% of the time. You can apply it to knowing the rhythm, and you can really use this 95% rule to check in with tip number 1 about quality and quantity, because the 95% rule can be a very clear way to evaluate if you are doing quality practice. I have a ton of other videos on how to make your practice effective and efficient, including some videos with very specific practice techniques that you can utilize during your practice sessions, and I will link to those so that you can check those ones out right now.